Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're really getting into a journey that so many people embark on, in vitro fertilization. And if you, or maybe someone you know, has looked up IVF prices, you've probably seen that one big number, the sticker price for a cycle.
Right.
But our sources all point to one thing. That number is, well, it's pretty misleading. So we're going to deep dive into the comprehensive cost, which goes way beyond that first clinic payment.
That is so true. And when we say hidden IVF costs, we're not really suggesting some, conspiracy or secret fees buried in the fine print.
It's not about that.
No, it's about everything that's mandatory for the process but is just rarely spelled out clearly from the get-go. It's all the stuff that doesn't show up on that first price list.
And you only find out about it when you're already deep in the process.
Exactly, when you're already committed.
And what's really crucial, based on the research, is that these costs aren't just paid with money. They're paid in 5 currencies: money, time, your body, your mind, and your relationships.
And if you don't account for all 5, the whole thing can feel completely overwhelming no matter what your bank account looks like.
So our mission today is all about clarity. It's about realistic planning. This isn't meant to scare anyone.
Not at all. It's about preparedness. We want to empower you with the full picture so that, when surprises happen, because they always do, they don't completely derail you.
Okay, let's unpack this. Starting with the one that hits first and hardest.
Yeah.
The financial surprises.
Right. So when a clinic quotes you for one IVF cycle, they usually mean just the basic procedure, the egg retrieval, some lab work.
It's like buying a car, but the price doesn't include the engine or the wheels.
That's the perfect analogy. All the stuff you need to actually drive is extra. And the biggest extra is almost always the medications.
Which can add thousands, right? I've heard even tens of thousands. It seems so strange that this isn't just built into the initial estimate. I mean, it's not optional.
That's the core frustration. The protocols have to be customized, of course, but there are standard categories that are almost always excluded. We're talking about the high-cost gonadotropins.
Those are the main stimulation injections.
Yep, the ones that grow the follicles. Then you've got meds to control ovulation, the critical trigger shot, and then weeks, sometimes months, of progesterone support after the transfer.
Wow.
The final bill for meds alone can easily be the same as, or sometimes even more than, the cycle's sticker price.
And that's before we even get to the diagnostics and lab tests. They seem to be in their own little financial world.
They are. Before, during, and after a cycle, you need constant blood work to check hormone levels, AMH, FSH, estradiol. The list goes on.
And that's just the standard stuff.
Exactly. You might also need more specific screening for, say, clotting disorders, that's thrombophilia, or maybe autoimmune panels. Plus, you and your partner both need infectious disease screening.
All separate line items.
Every single one.
Yeah.
And all totally necessary to even get started.
Okay, and what about in the lab itself? I've heard there's like a whole menu of add-ons there too.
There is. For example, ICSI, that's where they inject a single sperm directly into the egg, is pretty standard for a lot of couples now, but it's not always included in the base price.
So that's extra.
That's extra. And then you might have things like specialized imaging or time-lapse incubators. But the really big one everyone needs to brace for is genetic testing.
PGT-A.
Right, PGT-A, for checking chromosomal abnormalities. That is a significant, completely separate cost. And you pay it per embryo.
That's a huge point of confusion we saw. And here's another one. The assumption that if you paid for the egg retrieval, the embryo transfer is included.
Ah, yes. The Frozen Embryo Transfer, or FET. It's almost always a completely separate financial event.
So even if you have healthy embryos ready to go,
it doesn't matter. You're starting a new protocol. That means new meds, new monitoring appointments, and a brand new fee just for the transfer procedure itself. It's basically a mini cycle.
And don't forget the little things, like the anesthesiologist's fee for the retrieval.
Or those extra urgent checkups you need if your hormones aren't responding predictably. These micro costs just pile up.
Okay, that's a lot on the financial side. Let's pivot now to the cost of time and logistics. The calendar payment, we could call it.
Yes. This is the non-monetary price that can be so incredibly heavy. IVF demands just profound flexibility, often at the worst times.
The time off work alone has to be a major factor.
It's huge. You need at least a full day off for the egg retrieval, probably another half or a full day for the transfer. But the real burden is the monitoring visits.
They always seem to be at, like, 7:30 in the morning, right? Maximum inconvenience.
Exactly. You're constantly rushing to the clinic for blood draws and ultrasounds, sitting in traffic, taking time away from work multiple times a week. The parking fees, the gas, the lost productivity, it's a significant unbilled expense.
And that's if your clinic is local. If you have to travel for treatment, it just multiplies everything. Hotels, food, plane tickets.
The strain becomes enormous. And we can't forget the payment at home, the logistical stuff that nobody sees, like arranging childcare for your other kids, or just managing the household chores when you're recovering from retrieval, you're in pain, or just exhausted from the hormones. Those responsibilities don't disappear, you know?
That's a real cost paid in stress and future catch-up work. Which brings us to probably the heaviest category of all, the emotional and physical toll.
This is the price your body and mind pay. And it's really the least negotiable part of the whole deal.
The stress seems just constant.
It's foundational to the experience.
Yeah.
Because every IVF cycle is just a series of high-stakes emotional checkpoints. You're always waiting for a number.
How many follicles grew?
Then how many eggs did we get? How many fertilized? How many made it to day 5?
It's just one emotional hurdle after another, each one bringing this mix of intense hope and, imagine, just paralyzing fear.
And we need to sit with that feeling of paralysis for a moment. This constant uncertainty, this total loss of control, it creates a profound mental weight.
Couples are constantly asking themselves, what if this doesn't work?
Or, how many more times can we actually do this? That mental overload becomes a serious emotional debt that just keeps accumulating, cycle after cycle.
Which makes me wonder, why isn't psychological support just a standard part of the protocol? It's so often treated like an optional extra.
That is such a critical question. The reality is that therapy, counseling, a support group, these things are often essential for just surviving it mentally.
They're a necessary cost, not a luxury.
Exactly. It's maintenance. It allows you to manage the chronic grief and stress that are, frankly, baked into the process.
And what about the physical payment, what the body goes through?
Oh, the side effects from the stimulation meds are absolutely real. The intense bloating, water retention, the mood swings that can feel completely out of your control.
Headaches, bruising from the injections.
All of it. Your body's going through a massive temporary chemical shift. And then there's the recovery from the egg retrieval itself.
That's not a walk in the park. It's real recovery.
It is. It requires real rest. You're dealing with pelvic pain, fatigue, and you absolutely need 1 or 2 days to just recover. Plus, there's always the risk of complications.
Like OHSS, ovarian hyperstimulation syndrome.
Yes, and if that happens, it can require immediate medical care, maybe even hospitalization. And then the physical and financial costs just spiral.
This deep toll, it naturally bleeds into the deepest parts of your life.
Right.
Your relationships.
Without a doubt. The documentation we reviewed consistently shows that IVF creates these huge friction points in a partnership.
How so?
Well, you often find one partner is ready to push forward while the other is just completely exhausted and needs a break.
And people cope differently.
So differently. One person might need to talk it all out, the other just shuts down. And when you add that intense financial pressure we already talked about, arguments can feel inevitable.
And I've heard intimacy can become medicalized.
Completely. Spontaneity just disappears. Sex is scheduled around blood tests and appointments. Hormones are messing with libido and mood. It gets tough.
And there's a hidden cost of guilt and blame in there too, isn't there?
It's insidious. The partner with the diagnosed medical issue can feel this incredible burden, like it's all their fault, and the other partner can feel so helpless, which sometimes comes out the wrong way. It can be really isolating.
So let's look ahead. What about the future costs that most people aren't ready for? Because IVF is rarely a one-cycle process.
That's the essential truth. Statistically, most people will need multiple egg retrievals or multiple frozen embryo transfers.
So planning for a multi-stage journey is just realistic.
It's the only way to prepare. The cost of future cycles is normal, but it's rarely part of that first conversation.
And then there are the long-term storage fees for any unused embryos.
Yep, a bill that shows up every single year. But beyond the money, there's the future emotional cost of the decisions you have to make about them.
Use them, donate them, discard them.
Exactly. These are life-altering choices that carry a huge emotional price tag, sometimes years down the line.
And if the path eventually leads to using donor eggs or sperm?
The costs, both financial and emotional, just increase exponentially. It requires a whole new plan.
But planning is the key. Seeing this whole picture helps you manage the journey instead of just reacting to it. We've laid out this whole landscape of hidden costs.
We have.
Here's where it gets really interesting. We can shift from just outlining the problem to strategy, how you can step into this feeling more empowered.
Absolutely. So, actionable tip number 1, ask your clinic really specific, almost surgical questions. Don't accept a single blanket number.
You need to know what exactly is included and, more importantly, what is not.
Yes. Ask them, what do medications typically cost for someone with my profile? And what is the non-negotiable all-in cost for a future frozen transfer?
And we have to talk about budgeting for reality, not for that 1% success story.
Yes, the most realistic path is to budget for at least 2 transfers or maybe even 2 full stimulations. Create a financial map, even worst case one. It protects your relationship from so much stress.
Okay, tip 3. Prepare your life logistics. Don't wait.
Don't wait. Plan those days off work way in advance. Line up backup support at home, whether it's for childcare or just chores. Figure out your transport for those early morning appointments.
Remove decision fatigue wherever you can.
Exactly. And finally, normalize and budget for emotional support. We talked about how essential it is. See therapy or counseling not as a luxury, but as a necessary life raft.
So what does this all mean?
It means that the total reality of IVF is defined by this massive impact on your finances, your time, your body, your mind, and your relationships. Seeing the full picture doesn't make it easy, but it makes you prepared.
More protected.
And way less likely to feel surprised or frustrated or like you're doing something wrong when things get hard.
You're not unorganized if this process surprises you. The system is sort of designed to quote the minimum. And you are definitely not weak if these costs feel heavy. You're human. And you're fighting for something huge.
You absolutely deserve to go into this journey knowing the whole truth so you can make the best decisions for your body, your life, and your family.
And just a reminder, this deep dive was strictly for educational purposes and should not be considered medical advice. For more information about the complete IVF process, you can find resources at IVIA4ME.com. That's pronounced IVF for me.